You hear the terms goods and services thrown around all the time, right? But what is the real difference? It's way more than just things versus actions. This one little distinction actually changes everything about how a business works and even how we decide if something is any good. So let's dive in. All right, let's start with something super familiar, a simple coffee mug. You can pick it up, feel how heavy it is, see the color. It's a physical thing. It's yours. This is your classic good. But of course, that's only half of the story of your morning coffee. Because what about the person who actually made that coffee for you? The care they took, the way they steamed the milk, maybe that little bit of friendly chatter? Well, that's the service. They feel totally different, don't they? And that's because they are. We're about to see exactly why. Okay, so at the most basic level, it's pretty simple. Goods are tangible, physical stuff you can touch and own. Services are intangible. They're actions, processes, things people do for you. You own the mug, but you only experience the service. But believe me, this one simple difference opens up a whole world of other, much bigger differences. So first up, let's look at how they're actually made and managed. Because the fact that one is a physical thing and the other is an action creates two completely different sets of rules and challenges. It really all starts with the output. A factory's output is a physical mug. You can hold it, you can drop it, you can take it home. A barista's output? Well, it's the experience of getting a great coffee. You can't put that experience in your bag and save it for later. It happens, and then it's gone. And that leads right into inventory. Think about it. A coffee shop can have stacks and stacks of mugs in the back ready to sell. But can you stock a barista's time? Nope. You can't make a bunch of perfect cappuccinos at 9 a.m. and just save them for the afternoon rush. A service is perishable. It can't be saved. And here's another interesting one. Legal protection. If you invent some amazing, unique, spill-proof mug, you can absolutely get a patent for that design. It's a tangible invention. But can you patent a friendly smile or the specific way you pour a latte? Not so much. It's a performance, a process, and that is way, way harder to legally own. All right, now let's add the most unpredictable element of all into the mix: people. This is really where the lines between goods and services get drawn in permanent ink. This is where it gets complicated and interesting. So take a look here. We've already talked about the physical stuff like inventory, but look at these other characteristics, things like customer contact and labor content. This is all about the human element, and it pretty much changes the entire game. Let's break that down. First, customer contact. For goods, it's usually low. You might just grab a mug off a shelf. But for a service like getting coffee, it's super high. You're having a whole interaction. Second, labor content. A person, the barista, is central to creating the service. And third, and this one's huge, uniformity of input. The clay and glaze used to make a mug are always the same. But every customer who walks in is different. Different mood, different order, different questions. The input for a service is constantly changing. And all of that human variability, all that unpredictability leads to the single biggest challenge for any service business. How on earth do you guarantee quality when every single interaction, every single time, is totally unique? This chart says it all. A factory's whole goal is to make mug number 1 and mug number 1000 absolutely identical. But a service, the first coffee of the day and the 1000th coffee of the day are never going to be exactly the same. The foam art will be a little different, the chat will be different. They can be similar, sure, but they're always going to be unique. And that makes judging quality a whole different beast. It's easy to see if a mug is chipped or broken. That's objective. But how do you evaluate a service? Was the barista friendly enough? Was the coffee art impressive? It's totally subjective. It's all in the eye of the customer. Which brings us to fixing mistakes. A factory has quality control. They can find and toss out the chipped mugs before they ever get to a customer. But a service failure, like a rude comment, a spilled drink, or, a bad haircut, it happens in real time, right there with the customer. You can say you're sorry, but you can't unsay the comment, you can't take it back. No, really, just think about that for a second. You can always return a defective pair of headphones, no problem. But a bad experience? You can't. It's already happened. You can't return a terrible haircut or an awful flight. The experience was the product, and there's no recall button for that. Okay, so we've established that goods and services are just fundamentally different creatures. But so what? Why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Well, it matters because it completely changes how businesses have to think, operate, and succeed. Getting this distinction right is everything. It changes how you market. With goods, you're selling a product and its features. With services, you're selling an experience. It changes how you manage. With goods, you manage inventory. With services, you manage people. And finally, it changes how you measure success. For goods, you can just count defects. For services, you have to measure something way trickier: customer satisfaction. And that brings us to one last thought to leave you with. What happens when your smart fridge, which is a good, automatically orders your groceries for you, which is a service? Or when you get your coffee from a perfectly consistent, fully automated robot arm? As our technology gets smarter, that really clear line we've been drawing between goods and services, well, it's starting to get a little blurry, isn't it? What do you think is coming next? Thanks so much for joining me.